Okay. All right, so the next part of this tutorial, I want to talk more about the editing capabilities I touched on earlier with regards to new and existing doors in our Revit template. I'll go into more detail on a few of these doors and really kind of focus on the specific editing capabilities we have with our door family types. So here I'm in plan again. I'm looking at this top row is our existing door panel or door frame, door family types. Down here is our new family single door family types, and then we have our double door types down here. We got a single glass door there as well. But so I'm just going to get a little more into the trenches of how you work with these doors. So again, let me just change this back to our single door. Single. I'm going to go with this one here. Okay, perfect. Go ahead and delete those dimensions. I'm going to hide this. That's going to be coming up later. So starting with this single F1 frame door. All of our family types for single and double, they function parametrically very similar. There's very similar parameters that we can control to our designs, desire what we're doing in the project. So if I'm going to this door, let's see, this should not, oh, this is existing, excuse me. Yeah, see, this is an existing frame because it's locked in as, let me try this again. Let's see, door existing, single F1B, F1 frame. This is IF door single F1 frame. That's the one I want. So let's go to this one. This is just our standard door. We'll hide this for now. So just starting with the single door. I'm going to go into 3D view just to show this more clearly, but you can see this from any view if you're in plan or elevation. We have the door panel here. We have the door frame. If I tab on the door, you can actually see it's a separate family. So that's a separately inserted model into our frame family, and we have the frame type here as well. But that's all packaged into this door family that if I just select it on its own, I can just select the entire assembly. The first thing I'll point out is under constraints here, we have this ADA clearances visible. So if I check this on now, I have to be in a plan view to see this. But if I'm in a plan view, if I turn this on, what it gives me is it gives me an accessibility diagram of the clearances required for this door. Now these will adjust automatically based on the size of the door parameters, as well as we have some options that I will show as to how to as to our options for clearances in front of at this door. So if I select the door to start, this checkbox turns this on and off. So for issuances of drawings, we always turn this off. Then below that, if I just kind of drag, if I widen out this this window here a little bit, you can see we have ADA clearance push side and we have ADA clearance pull side. So this, if I select this field, I can actually have there's a drop down here you can see, and this just gives all of the requirements based on the accessibility code of the different types of approaches for this approach to the door. So the different type of approaches on the push side of the door. So that's this side, excuse me. PSH is the push. So this is showing a front approach where a door has a closer and latch, for example. And you can see the description here is actually also written kind of in the description on the side. So I can look from this list. Don't use the front approach don't use the front approach double door. That's not applicable for a single door. But if I have no door closer, I can change this out, and now I can see, okay, this would be my front approach if I do not have a door closer installed on this door, for example. I can select this. I can go to my push side clearances. So again, that's this side of the door. And I can pick, I could do a hinge approach, let's say, with door closer and latch. So again, if we're approaching from this direction, we need this much clearance here. I think it's probably maybe 24 inches. Let's just double check. 22 inches, okay. And then we have 48 inches from the wall that we need to come out. And we can see that there. So we can change this. We have a few options on this side. We can use any of these options, again, except for that double door. That's the only one that's not applicable, but any of these others would apply to the push side of the door. The same thing is true on the pull side. So again, if I go down below here, clearance is pull side, I can go ahead and click this down arrow, and I can see there's a front approach double door. That's the only one of this list that does not apply. But all of the pull approach clearances, if I pick any of these, they all have that pull designation, and they're all for the pull side. And the family does not allow me, automatically the family knows the push side from the pull side. So it only allows you to change the clearance options on the side that's applicable to that door. So you can't select a pull side approach on the push side of the door or vice versa. As well as that, if I click these flip arrows to flip the door panel, to flip the door swing, or to flip, the hinge side, you can see that those clearances go with it. So no matter where I'm at, I know that this clearance is per ANSI 117 or ADA 2010. That would be it'll be compliant with those clearance requirements, and those are referencing just to get out of Revit here for a second. I will pull up the ADA standards I have here on my desktop, and once this opens up, we can just kind of skip down to, and that's pretty good. I think this might be close to the section I want to look at here. There we go. So this is section 404. This is where we have our clearances, and you can see here are the various clearance requirements we have to meet for different configurations of the door. Now I just did, let's just kind of test one of these here. So this is the push approach door with closer and latch, and it's a hinge approach. So it's a push side hinge approach with door closer and latch. So let's just look this up, make sure that we're good here. So this is the push side hinge approach. So that's normal. And then with a door closer and latch, you can see it's 22 inches and 48 inches from the wall. Now, if I have this example where I don't have a closer and latch, or if I have a latch and no closer, then I could get away with this 42 inches. So let's just try to find that option in our doors. So if I've selected this, I'm looking at the pull side. So I'm going to go ahead, or excuse me, I'm looking at the push side. So I'm going to click this one, and I'm going to find, so this is the push latch hinge approach, no door closer. So if I switch to that, you can see this 42 by 22 corresponds with the requirements of, again, this is, referencing 2010 ADA or ANSI 117. I mean, that's, so we need to make sure, local codes are specific. If we're really tight on something, we should always verify that the local codes did not change any of these clearances. But these are very typically the standard in most jurisdictions. So we can just go ahead and go change this back to front approach like that. And I can just delete these dimensions. But really, again, this is really just a reference guide internally for our design team as you're laying out your spaces. We turn this on during the design phase just to make sure our clearances are correct and that we're covered. And once we've done that, we go ahead and turn them off. And you can see, just for example, at this door with this type, if I go here, I can see that as well here. So all of these doors, including existing doors, they also have this feature. So if you're at an existing door, you can, check your clearances to the existing door even and make sure you're not causing a compliance issue inadvertently. Another thing I'll point out with this is if I make any adjustments to the width of the door. So let's say if this is, if I change this to, actually, let's just change the type. So I'm just going to do this quickly. So if I go to change the width of the door, let's just say this is a 4-foot door and not a 3-foot. Go ahead and close that out. Once I change that, you can see that my door clearances is still, it's stuck to the opening. So it will represent correctly and accurately based on the actual dimensions of the door opening that we have. So if I select this and select this, you can see there's my 12 inches, and that's the case whether the door is 3-foot wide or 4-foot wide. So we can just kind of verify that with the sizing. So now that I've gone over that first subject, a couple more that I want to show before I get into the type parameters. You have your standard level. So if this is on level 1, you can pick which level you want the door to be on. If you need to adjust the sill height, you can just do that. That'll adjust the whole door. So if I just go to this elevation view, it's elevation 5A. If I change the sill height to 6 inches, the whole door gets pulled up that 6 inches, right? So typically that's at 0. We don't usually have to do that, but it can be done. You can see here under construction, the parameter IF door frame type, F1, that's built into this door family. So that's what coordinates with our hardware schedule that I mentioned before, the door frame and hardware schedule here. We have that F1 type. That's how that is organized or automatically organized based on the panel that we're using. If I go down further, there's some fields that we fill in once we're doing the drawings. Once we're finalizing our project drawings, these are manual fields. So anything that's not filled in currently would be a manual field that we have to actually coordinate and add. But this gets us part of the way there. Under graphics, we have swing angle. So if I switch over to the partition plan, I'll show you that here. So the swing angle, if I don't want it to, typically it's going to be 90 degrees, but I can make this swing angle 45 if I'd like. I can make it 12, which you never really do that. I can make it 178. Hopefully that doesn't break it. Yep. So we can do that. 160. So again, most of the time we don't need to change this. Whoops. Sometimes the door does some weird stuff. So let's go with 150. There we go. That's a little better. Usually we don't need to change this. This is usually most of the time 90 degrees is the standard. But if we, for any reason, if we want to show any of our doors, single or double, as having a swing that that needs to show that we're clear of something or for other purposes, we can always modify those. On the new door types, the existing doors, if I select one of our existing door types, you'll see all of the same information all the way down here until graphics. Since it's existing, the standard is 45 degrees. We don't change that. It'll always be 45 degrees. Down here, you can see the door mark. That's A201. So this door must be in our schedule, existing door A201. So if we look here, we can confirm that because automatically we have the existing under the door frame type. And we'll go back to the 3D view. So we've talked about the type parameters in here, head height. That's typical on most doors. Okay. So now that we've talked about the parameters that you adjust per door, we're going to talk about the type parameters. So the type parameters, just to give everyone just a quick overview of this. If I create another door family of this type, if I right click on this door and I say select all instances in view, you can see since these two door families are the same type, they're the same name, same description, any of the parameters under type in here are going to apply to both of these doors. If I wanted to make a change to one of these types that does not apply to both, then I would need to go edit type, and I would duplicate this type and rename this new door to have a certain separate parameter. So just so that's understood, just in the background, I'll just talk about the parameter types, the type parameters that are available in the single door. And a couple of them I've already touched on. So if I have this single door, if I go to edit type, the first one that I can change, and I can actually hit a little preview of this, I think. If it it doesn't show everything correctly. Never mind. We won't do that. The first thing I can change here that we did last time is I can change the door panel type that this door family has. So again, I click on this down arrow, and if I want a let's say the vision light, or let's do the narrow light. So let's do the type N. I can go ahead and click OK. And there's my narrow light. It's just added to this door. No problem. I can go to types, and I can pick any of the elevated door panel types that are in our elevations. I can choose them from this drop down all the way down to the Dutch door. Let's just look at that. So I can go click OK. So that's the panel type. So I'm going back in again, editing the type. Existing door. If you check this box, it will just lock the swing angle at 45 degrees. So again, for new doors, this doesn't need to be there. or you really don't need to turn that on or off or use it much. Masonry opening, this is a function that will come later in later versions of the template, but for now it does nothing, so don't worry about it. Function, you can change that interior, exterior. It does not really affect anything much. You can see this down here under graphics, door hardware visible. So we do have, you can see we've gotten very specific with the geometry in our family. So let me just change this back to a full panel door just so I can see what I'm doing here. Go ahead and click that. Okay, good. So you can see we have this hardware family that's shown there. It's just a standard lock set or a lever type that we typically use on our projects. So this little checkbox, if I turn this off, again, it's a type parameter, so it'll do this to all doors of that type. But if I just don't want to see that in 3D views or in my elevations for whatever reason, you can just go ahead and turn that off in that type. Down here under materials finishes, so we have our DF material, so that's our door frame material. We have our DP material, that's our door panel material, and then we have our glass material. So the glass material only is applicable if we have a door with either a side light or a panel type that has glass in it. Otherwise, that really wouldn't apply to this particular family. But typically, the other two, the door frame and the door panel material, if you change this, it will change the material used on the door. Down here, you can see we have this door panel undercut. This is a very specific nuanced dimension, but in case if we needed a 2-inch undercut on the door, you'll see down below here if I hit apply. And it might just take me a minute or two. Oh, didn't work. Well, that's okay. It's almost never going to be used anyways. But the idea there is that the undercut would basically create the undercut there. But again, that's almost never something that anyone will have to change. Most of the time, it can be just left as about a 1/2 inch or so. Here's the door panel height. So under height and width, I can change the overall height and or width of this. So let's say if it's a 9-foot door, and I'm just going to do something extravagant, 9-foot by 5-foot door, just to really see that. I will also point out this DP panel width and the width overall for this single door. These reference each other. So whatever I put in one, you can edit this in one or the other. Either one, it's going to go back and forth and it's going to correspond. So I can go ahead and click OK. And when I open this up, so we can see it's a much taller, much wider door. If I go to my door schedule, we're still dealing with this A190, which is this one here. And you can see it's 5-foot by 9-foot. And you can even see the panel width. It's just telling me 5-foot, which matches with that. Now, I could edit this information. Let's say if I wanted to edit this information here. I can't edit in the width category for the panel, but I can go to the opening size and right in the schedule, let's say, oh, this is a typo. I want it to be 8. Whoops, maybe we don't want to do 80 feet. Let's do 8 feet for that. Go ahead right here, 8 foot. And this is a window that's just warning me that because I'm changing this and it's a type parameter in my door, it's telling me all instances of this door frame type and panel type is going to be changed. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And you can see I've changed it there. And I can go here and just go ahead and change this here too. Let's just say that's 3 foot. Just warning me again, I'm changing it everywhere. You can see that changed, the width changed the panel. And then if I go back to my 3D view, I can see this is my door that I was working with. I can verify that with the partition plan. Right, so that's that door. This is door A190, and I've changed that back from the schedule. I've changed it back to the door type that I want. I can also, if I'm working with A190, I can change even the thickness of the door panel. Again, most of our door panels never going to have to be changed, but we have the ability to do so if need be. So let's just say this door panel is a 3-inch door panel for whatever reason. I'm going to edit in the schedule. It's going to change it here for me. It's telling me this F1 frame type door is going to be changed A190. I'm going to go back to the partition plan, and you can see it's actually showing me kind of a thicker door there. And I can go here and just verify 3 inches. Okay, that's what I said. That's what the schedule says. And if I go here and I select the door and I go to my edit type, I can go down into the door thickness. And you can see here, door thickness is 3 inches. So I can make this change I can type 1.75 inches, 1 3/4. If I want to change it back, go ahead and change it back. Now it's changed that back. And if I go to my door schedule, it's changed it back here as well to the 1 3/4. So any of our door types have all of these functions I'm talking about. I think that's it for the single doors. Let's just make sure. So we talked about the thickness, the rough height and rough width. Really, we don't really need to worry about those. Don't schedule anywhere. And that's really it for the single door. All the same is true for the existing door. So if I click here, I can just go down through. And now we don't have existing door because we know by definition it is. But all of our other types, all of our other parameters here, including door panel changes, material changes, any of our dimensions, we can edit all of this the same way we did with the new door. It's just with a different family. Now, once we get into a family with a frame, you will also see, again, we have the same ADA clearances here. We can turn these on and off. We can adjust them. We have our level and sill height, our door frame type. You can see that's already baked in. We can adjust. If we want to adjust the swing, we can show, 120-degree door, a little bit more like that, or not. Really, where the differences really come in with the side light or with the frame, with the side light is when I go into the edit type, and I did that a little bit quickly. Let me do that again just so it's clear. So I've got this door type here. This is the F1B with the single side light. If I go to edit type, I'm going to click that. And now that I'm in edit type for this F1B with a side light, you can see I have this additional side light width, which we adjusted in the last video. So I can adjust this, and that will adjust in the plan view the actual parameters of this door, and it will adjust the width of that. And it will also show me in my schedule, as I mentioned before, what that dimension is. Same thing is true here. Existing door, again, it works the same way as the single. We have the door hardware visible. If we don't want to see it, we can just turn it off. Any of our materials for the doors, the door frame, the door panel material, or the glass material, any of that can be adjusted here. And then the same dimensions here with the undercut, the panel width, and all the other widths. That's all the same. This one is, again, identical to the frame side light, except here the side light width will actually adjust both. So let's say if I do this as 3 feet, click OK, you're going to see that my side light width here on this door, you can see it adjusted to 3-foot side lights. And I could just, I just undid my last commands and got back to this. Where it starts to get a little different, but it's still very similar, is with our double doors. So if I click the double doors, I can click ADA clearance is visible. Now the difference with the double doors and the ADA is really there's not much variance to the clearances you need for accessibility at a double door. You really just need the width of the door clear and the push side and the pull side front approach. That's really the only parameter they give you. So unlike with the other doors, we still have the ability to click this down arrow and really kind of change this to any of these others. But in the inverse of my point about not using double door for single doors on it, you don't use a double door clearance on the single doors. You really do the same thing is true. The inverse is true on these, where you really only want to use that double door option. So if I go in through here, front approach double door, that's really the only one you want to use because that's the only one that's really applicable. But you can turn it on and off like we did before. So I'm going to turn it on, turn it off. Level sill height is the same. We have the same frame type. Swing angle, we can change this as well. So if we want 120, we can do that. Go ahead and it'll change both. We want 90, we can just change that back there. Okay. All the rest of this is the same. And if I go into my edit type parameters, in this case, because we have a double door, we now have a left and right door panel option. Most of the time, you're going to have this, the same door panel type is likely going to be used for both doors. But if you wanted to do a door with a light and then the other side is just a solid panel, we can go ahead and do that. So just to illustrate that, I'm going to just go into a 3D view so we can see this more readily. And then from here, I'm going to go to edit type and let's change the right panel to a full glass door. So that'll be our type FG. Go ahead and change that, click OK. And there's our glass light door. Now, again, I want to just reiterate here that whenever we're adding a door to a project, an important part of our standards is that we rename, we duplicate the type. So I wouldn't just take this door family and change these things. I would duplicate it, the duplicate button. And here I would just describe, what we're working with here. So this is going to be new. You can just do DBL for double. We can do DPF, and we'll do FG since it's two of them. And then we can do DF2. And we can just do the size, 36 by 84. Okay. Go ahead and click that. And then again, we can change this to 3684. We can adjust our parameters accordingly. And, we would have this new door type. In the door frame and hardware schedule, I'm not sure. Let's just identify first which door we're working with. So I'm just going to create another tag here. No need to save just yet. Okay, so we're going to be working with A128. So I'm going to go to my door schedule, or my door frame and hardware sheet. So we're looking at A128 here in the top. Now you can see already my schedule already knows this opening width is 6 foot. The opening height is 7 foot. We have two equal door panel widths, 3 foot and 3 foot. If I were to adjust this, let's just say I want to adjust the width of this to, instead of a 6 foot door, let's just make it a 7 foot door. So now you can see it's adjusted my panel widths, leaf 1 and leaf 2, to 3 foot 6 even, because this double door will always be an even leaf door. And if I go back to 128, you can see I have 7 foot width and 3 foot 6 for the panel width. So this will always coordinate based on using the correct family. It'll always coordinate the panel widths, and you have the thickness of the door panel. And you will also see F2, which corresponds to our double door frame. So we have, if I can find it here, F2. Here we go. Oh, it looks different because I changed the original. Legend version of the family. So that's why we don't want to do that. Any of the family types. So what I'm saying here. I'm speaking a little internally, but when I originally made this change, the sample type is the one that is the type that represents itself on our door elevation type. So that's another reason why we always want that full panel, or that we want this sample type to always be just left as it originally was, so that way we're not making undue changes to this door elevation. And you would just kind of you would just add in your door panel types into this column here. But I can see here F2 corresponds with our F2 double door frame, which would be this one here, F2 double frame. You will notice as well that the F1 frame, single frame, always is the single frame with no additional. F2 is going to always be the double frame. And you will notice also that F1B with a single side light, the double door equivalent of that would be F2B, which we don't typically have, so I don't have that elevated. That may not ever be needed on a project. But for example, F2C, you can see is just the double door version of the single door with double side light F1C. Okay. Last couple ones I wanted to point out are the pivot doors. So we have a single and double frameless pivot. So if I select this is going to be door type. It's going to be frame type PV in our schedule. So if I go here, we're really looking at PV and PV2. So PV2 would be our double frameless pivot door and our single frameless pivot door. So those doors, it'll be this one and this one below it. If I look in 3D, you can see that the door inserts into the wall. There's no frame. We have specific hardware that works with this, and our detail basically just shows a little header there that just gets painted to match the adjacent wall. So if I click this one, I can see all the same parameters that I had with the other doors that we've talked about so far. If I go to edit type, I can change out the panel on the door. I can change the materiality of the door as needed. Again, the frame material is not going to be applicable because we really don't have a frame in this case. but any of the other dimensional parameters I can change in this door. And then last but not least, just want to talk about our curtain wall type doors. So in our standard template, we try to not use the curtain wall door types when we don't need to. The reason for that is because when the curtain panel is driven by our grid lines for the curtain wall type, the door schedule ends up with a lot of these sort of weird dimensions here. You might have, 3'2" and some change, some additional dimensions there, and we end up having to go through the model and adjust those accordingly. So what we usually do is, if I go back to my 3D view, we will insert. So if I delete this door, and I'm just dealing with our curtain wall. If I click our panel, you can see we use a standard wall type, and we represent our glass with a wall type so that they can host our door families. So this is actually a wall type, but it's titled IF half-inch glass and showing a glass panel here. So once I've created this curtain wall, and actually I can just do a duplicate of this just to show this example. I'm going to go ahead and create similar, and I'll just put it out here just to show this. And once I have this curtain wall, I can go to doors, and I'm just going to make another one of these. Let's just do GLP. So that's our double glass door. Let's just do our single glass door for now. So if I go down to, I might need to search. There we go, single glass here. So I'm going to go ahead and select the GLP to show this as an example. And it's our channel set. Yeah, that's the right one. Okay. So let's just try to drop this on here. And why isn't it? Maybe I have to go to partition plan to help with this. Huh. I don't know if I need to unlock it. Oh, okay. This is not showing the correct glass type. So let me just fix that here. IF glass half-inch. That's right. So if this ever comes up, we need to make sure we're using, so this glass panel here needs to be our actual, that needs to be our IF glass half-inch. There we go. Now that I've got that, now I should be able to, yeah, here we go. So I'm just going to go ahead and pop this guy in. You can see I have the clearances on this door. I can go ahead and turn those off. Go to 3D view, and you can see it's inserting into the curtain wall, and I can still adjust, the width and the height and everything of this curtain wall piece. And if I need to add mullions, I can go ahead and do that. I can go ahead and click mullions, or actually, I think I need to do curtain grid. Yeah, so let's just add a grid line maybe here, and let's just say this needs to come out a little more, maybe more of a side light that way. There we go. So I can add this side light here, and if I go to my elevation view, it doesn't show it. That's okay. I can see it in plan view. You can see here's the channel side here. There's that there. Oh, and I can just, if I just move this up, that should show it now. Yeah, just about. Just go here again and move it up. Okay. And you can see it there. Let me just move it out of the way of this other one. So you can see in elevation, it's showing the door its true size. This door, because it's a door family, it will always show exact dimensions no matter what the size of the glass curtain wall type it's in. So in elevation, if we see this in elevation, we would just want to make sure that we're adjusting our heights so that they make sense with the frame, with the opening. We want to adjust our grid lines so that they correspond correctly with the door. But in our door schedule, I know this is the type GLR. Which one is it? Let me just check here. A224. Okay. So in here, A224. There it is at the bottom. You can see it is a 1/2 inch thick panel. We know that already. And GLR is already built in here. But you can also see that the dimensions are correct, that we have the right dimensions we want in there. Same thing is true. Finally, we'll end on the glass double doors. This is the same thing here as well. So if I go to 3D view, you can see here we have these door pulls by default. Again, we can turn these off if needed. But the same is true for these double doors, that we can add them to a curtain, to that IF 1/2 inch glass type. So as long as I'm just tabbing it, there we go. So this IF glass 1/2 inch, you can see that's actually a wall type, right? So that's built into this. We can host this door to that type of panel. So just keep that in mind. If it doesn't host, we just need to adjust that. But otherwise, this will host, and it will always show the size that we tell it to. So, or that is already described in this type family. So edit type. If I need to change, let's say the width, let's say this is 2'6". I go ahead and change it there like any other door. And again, in elevation, if I see this, I have to just adjust the grid lines. But in my schedule, that door will always be scheduled based on the actual dimensions, so I don't have to adjust small dimensions there on the side. And that's it for I think this video. So we'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching.